The package was heavier than Amani expected. Rain hammered against the taxi window as she clutched the unmarked envelope to her chest, her heart beating in rhythm with the windshield wipers. The driver's eyes flicked to her in the rearview mirror, suspicious and tired. She couldn't blame him. It was 2 a.m, she was soaked through her jacket, and she'd just asked him to wait outside the most exclusive hotel in Hanul City. 5 minutes, she promised, shoving wet bills into his hand. I'll be right back. The Obsidian Crown Hotel rose before her like a blade of black glass cutting through the storm. Amani had lived in South Korea for 3 years, building a modest career as a cultural consultant, but she'd never been inside this place. Nobody went to the Obsidian Crown unless they were invited. Or desperate. She was definitely the latter. The lobby swallowed her whole. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers that cost more than her mother's surgery. Security guards in sharp suits tracked her movement, hands resting near concealed weapons. Amani forced her spine straight, adopted the walk of someone who belonged. Fake it until you survive it. The elevator required a keycard for the 40th floor. The courier company had sent her the access code with strict instructions. Deliver to Suite 4013, knock 3 times, leave immediately. Don't ask questions. Don't look anyone in the eye. Definitely don't come back. The money they offered was 3 times her usual rate. That should have been her first warning. Before the story continues, kindly subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the video, comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the conclusion of this story and more intense stories like this. The elevator climbed in silence, her reflection staring back at her from polished steel walls. Amani Cole, 29 years old, 5,000 miles from home, carrying God knows what to God knows who. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Baby, sometimes the devil offers exactly what you need. She should have listened. The 40th floor was carpeted in deep crimson, the hallway stretching like a throat. No other doors were visible except 4013 at the end. Classical music drifted from somewhere, mixed with low male voices speaking rapid Korean. Amani approached the door, raised her fist, and knocked 3 times. The music stopped. Footsteps. Multiple sets. The door opened, and Amani found herself staring at a wall of a man, easily 6'4", built like he bench-pressed sedans for fun. His face was scarred across the left cheek, his eyes flat and assessing. Delivery, Amani said in Korean, keeping her voice steady. 4. You're late. His Korean was clipped, annoyed. Traffic. Rain. I'm here now. He didn't take the package. Instead, he stepped aside, revealing the suite beyond. Amani's instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet stayed planted. Through the doorway, she glimpsed luxury that made the lobby look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that belonged in museums, and men in expensive suits standing in a semicircle around someone she couldn't see. Bring it in, the scarred man ordered. I was told to leave it at the door. Plans changed. Inside. Now. Amani's fingers tightened on the envelope. Every nerve in her body told her this was wrong, but 3 months of her mother's medical bills crushed that hesitation. She stepped inside. The suite smelled like expensive cologne and danger. The men parted slightly, and Amani saw him. He sat in a leather chair like it was a throne, one leg crossed over the other, fingers steepled beneath his chin. He couldn't have been older than 35, but he wore power like a second skin, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that missed nothing, black hair swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers or wanted posters. Probably both. Kang Tae-Jun. She didn't know his name yet, but she knew immediately that he was the kind of man mothers warned their daughters about. You're not the usual courier, he said. His voice was smooth, cultured, deadly quiet. I'm filling in. Amani extended the envelope. Your package. He didn't move. What's your name? Does it matter? I don't like surprises in my home. Name. Amani Cole. Something flickered in his expression. Curiosity, maybe, or calculation. American. American-born. I work here. Doing what? Cultural consulting. Translation services. And apparently, late-night deliveries when I need the money. She took a step closer, still holding out the envelope. Can I go now? Tae-Jun rose from his chair with predatory grace. He was taller than she'd expected, lean but muscular beneath his tailored suit. He took the envelope from her hands, fingers brushing hers for a fraction of a second. His skin was cold. You have honest eyes, he said, studying her face. That's rare in this city. I'll take that as a compliment. You shouldn't. He opened the envelope, scanning the contents. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Jae-min, escort Ms. Cole out. Pay her double. The scarred man, Jae-min, nodded and gestured toward the door. Amani was halfway there when she heard the other voice. Is that the confirmation? A woman's voice, cold and sharp. Everything is set for Saturday. Amani glanced back without meaning to. A woman had emerged from an adjoining room, stunning in a white silk dress, her long black hair perfectly styled. She moved to Tae-Jun's side with the familiarity of someone who belonged there. Everything is arranged, Tae-Jun replied, his voice carefully neutral. The wedding will proceed as planned. Wedding. The word hit Amani like a physical blow, though she had no right to feel anything about it. She didn't know this man, didn't want to know him. The woman, his fiancée, apparently, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Good. My family is looking forward to the union. Hanul City will finally have peace. Peace through marriage, Tae-Jun said. How romantic. His tone was acid-wrapped in silk. Amani should have kept walking, should have taken her money and forgotten everything. But years of reading people, of navigating cultural tensions and unspoken dynamics, made her pause. She saw it in the way he held himself, rigid, controlled, trapped. She saw it in the woman's smile, victorious, calculating, cruel. And she saw it in the eyes of the other men in the room, the way they watched Tae-Jun like vultures circling wounded prey. Ms. Cole. Jaemin's hand landed on her shoulder, firm but not rough. This way. Amani let herself be led to the elevator, her mind racing. She'd seen something she shouldn't have, felt something wrong coiling in that suite like smoke. The elevator doors closed, sealing her away from the 40th floor and its dangerous occupants. Jae-min handed her an envelope thick with cash. Double as promised. Forget you were here tonight. Already forgotten, Amani lied. But 3 days later, standing outside the White Lotus Pavilion with rain-soaked hair and a racing heart, she knew she'd been fooling herself. She couldn't forget, couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. The wedding invitation had arrived mysteriously at her apartment. Cream-colored paper with gold lettering, no return address. The union of Kang Tae-Jun and Yoon Woo-rin. It wasn't really an invitation. It was a summons. Or a warning. Amani had spent 2 days investigating, using her consulting contacts and the kind of careful questions that didn't raise suspicions. What she learned turned her blood cold. The Black Serpent Union. The Bacon family. 2 of Korea's most powerful criminal organizations, locked in a war that had lasted decades, now supposedly making peace through marriage. Except Amani had seen the bride's face. She'd heard that cold voice. And late last night, unable to sleep, she'd gone for a walk and seen Yoon Woo-rin meeting 3 men in a shuttered restaurant near the docks. Their conversation had been brief, hushed, but Amani had heard enough. Asterisk Saturday. During the vows. Make it look like the Americans. Asterisk. She should have gone to the police. Should have left the country. Should have done anything except what she was doing now, standing outside a wedding venue in a borrowed black dress, trying to convince herself she wasn't about to do something catastrophically stupid. The White Lotus Pavilion was everything the Obsidian Crown Hotel pretended to be. Old money, political power, the kind of place where Korea's elite gathered to see and be seen. Guests in designer clothes flooded through the entrance, security checking invitations with military precision. Amani's invitation was real. She'd confirmed that much. Someone wanted her here. The question was why. She joined the flow of guests, head high, heartbeat thundering. Inside, the pavilion was transformed into something from a fairy tale. White flowers everywhere, crystal decorations catching light like trapped stars, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. It was beautiful in the way mausoleums were beautiful. Amani found a seat near the back, scanning the crowd. Politicians she recognized from news broadcasts. Business executives. Men and women whose faces she'd seen in her research, all connected to the same shadowy networks that ran beneath Seoul's glittering surface. This wasn't a wedding. It was a summit. The groom's side was packed with hard-faced men in expensive suits, their eyes constantly moving, assessing threats. The bride's side looked softer, more refined, but Amani had learned not to trust surfaces. Predators came in all packages. The music swelled. Everyone stood. Yoon Warin entered like a vision in white, her dress an architectural marvel of lace and silk. She was objectively stunning, moving down the aisle with perfect grace. And her eyes, when they swept the crowd, were utterly empty of anything resembling love. At the altar, Kang Tae-Jun waited. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him like sin, his expression carved from stone. When his bride reached him, he took her hand with all the warmth of a business transaction. The officiant began speaking, his voice echoing through the pavilion. Traditional vows in Korean, promises of unity and devotion. Amani's eyes weren't on the couple. She was watching the guests, the security, the exits. And then she saw him. Second row, bride's side. A man whose hand kept disappearing inside his jacket. Whose eyes weren't on the couple but on a woman near the back wall, who nodded once, subtle as a breath. Amani's blood turned to ice. The officiant asked Tae-Jun to speak his vows. He did, his voice steady and emotionless, reciting words that meant nothing. Warin responded in kind, her smile never wavering. If anyone objects to this union, the officiant intoned, speak now or. Amani was moving before she consciously decided to move. She stood, the sound of her chair scraping back cutting through the ceremony like a gunshot. Every head turned. Security hands flew to weapons. Tae-Jun's eyes found hers across the distance, and for one fraction of a second, she saw recognition flicker there. I object, Amani said, her voice carrying clear and strong. This marriage is a lie. Chaos erupted in whispers. Warin's perfect composure cracked. Security began moving toward Amani, but she was already walking down the aisle, heart hammering, hands shaking, every instinct screaming that she was about to die. Ms. Cole. Tae-Jun's voice cut through the noise like a blade. You're interrupting. I know. She kept walking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you need to listen to me. Remove her, Warin snapped. Guards converged. Amani saw the man in the second row reach into his jacket. Saw the woman by the wall tense. Saw everything about to collapse into violence. So she ran. Not away, toward. She sprinted the last 10 feet to the altar, saw Tae-Jun's eyes widen in shock. Saw security reaching for her. And then she grabbed his lapels, pulled him down, and kissed him. For one suspended moment, the world stopped. His lips were warm against hers, his body rigid with surprise. She poured everything into that kiss. Desperation, apology, warning. Her hand found his chest, pressed against the hard muscle there, and she felt his heart thundering beneath her palm. Then she whispered against his mouth, too quiet for anyone else to hear. You're going to die. Trust me. Move. Tae-Jun's body shifted a split second before the gunshot rang out. The bullet meant for his head shattered the floral arch behind them. Screams erupted. Guests dove for cover. Amani felt Tae-Jun's arm lock around her waist, pulling her down as more shots fired. Security returning fire. The beautiful pavilion transforming into a war zone. Stay down. He growled in her ear, his body covering hers. But Amani had already seen what she needed to see. The shooter in the second row, hit by security, collapsing. The woman by the wall, fleeing through a side exit. And Yoon Warin, standing frozen at the altar, her face not showing fear but fury. Tae-Jun dragged Amani behind a column as bullets punched through chairs and shattered crystal decorations. His men formed a protective circle, weapons drawn, shouting orders in Korean. Through the chaos, Amani watched Warin being evacuated by her family's security, her white dress a ghost disappearing into smoke. Who are you? Tae-Jun demanded, his hand gripping Amani's arm. Who sent you? Nobody sent me. I came because another volley of gunfire cut her off. Can we have this conversation somewhere bulletproof? Jaemin appeared beside them, blood streaking his face. Boss, we need to move. Now. They ran, through service corridors, downstairs, into a basement parking garage where black SUVs waited with engines running. Amani was shoved into the back of one, Tae-Jun sliding in beside her, Jaemin taking the front passenger seat. The vehicle peeled out before the door fully closed. The city blurred past. Amani's hands were shaking, adrenaline crashing through her system. She'd just witnessed an assassination attempt. Been part of one. Kissed a man at his own wedding to save his life. Her mother was going to kill her. If Tae-Jun didn't do it first. He was staring at her with an intensity that made her skin burn. Talk, he said. Everything. Now. So she talked. About the delivery, the conversation she'd overheard, Warren's secret meeting at the docks. About the fragments of the plan she'd pieced together. How the Bacon family had arranged the marriage not as peace, but as execution. How they'd blame it on American rivals. How they'd take control of the Black Serpent Union in the chaos. Why would you risk your life to tell me this? Tae-Jun's voice was dangerous, probing. What do you gain? Nothing. I gain nothing. Everyone wants something. Not everyone is you. Amani met his eyes. Some people just don't want to watch someone die when they could have prevented it. Something shifted in his expression, surprise, maybe, or recognition. That kind of morality gets people killed in my world. Then your world is broken. Yes, he said quietly. It is. The SUV pulled into an underground garage, high security doors closing behind them. Amani was led through a maze of corridors into a penthouse apartment that made the obsidian-crowned suite look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, modern furniture arranged with cold precision, artwork that belonged in galleries. Wait here, Tae-Jun ordered, disappearing into another room with Jae-min. Amani sank onto a leather couch, her legs finally giving out. Reality crashed over her in waves. She'd just destroyed a criminal wedding, made an enemy of the Bacon family, kissed Kang Tae-Jun in front of half of Seoul's underworld. She was so monumentally screwed. 15 minutes later, Tae-Jun returned alone, changed into black slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up revealing surprisingly elegant forearms. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. Drink, he said. You're shaking. She drank. The whiskey burned perfectly. I had you investigated, he continued, sitting across from her. 3 years in Korea, clean record, no criminal connections. You're exactly what you claim to be, a consultant trying to make rent and send money home. So you believe me? I believe you saved my life. He studied her face. The question is what to do with you now. Amani's stomach dropped. I can leave. Forget all of this. I'll be on a plane tomorrow. They'll kill you before you reach the airport. You humiliated the Bacon family in public. They can't let that stand. Then what am I supposed to do? Tae-Jun leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. You stay with me. Under my protection. As what exactly? My fiancée. Amani nearly dropped her glass. You're what? The wedding was public. High profile. Everyone saw you kiss me, saw the attempt on my life. If we deny everything, admit the marriage was arranged, I look weak. The Bacon family looks incompetent. It destabilizes everything. He stood, pacing to the windows. But if we claim you're my real love, that I was trapped in an arranged marriage and you saved me, it changes the narrative. Makes me sympathetic. Makes you valuable alive. That's insane. That's politics. I don't want to be anyone's fake fiancé. You don't have a choice. He turned to face her. Neither do I. Amani stared at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd just had his wedding destroyed and was now calmly restructuring reality to survive. How long? 6 months. Long enough to stabilize the situation. After that, we have a public breakup. You get a new identity if you want it, and enough money to never worry about medical bills again. And if I say no, then you're on your own. Good luck staying alive. It wasn't really a choice. They both knew it. What about my mother? My family. Protected. Guarded. I'll make sure of it. Amani finished her whiskey in one burning swallow. I want it in writing. Contract. Terms. Everything. For the first time since she'd met him, Kang Tae-Jun smiled. It was small, barely there, but real. Deal. He extended his hand. Amani stared at it for a long moment, knowing that shaking it would change everything. Then she gripped his hand firmly. His skin wasn't cold anymore. The first week was a masterclass in controlled chaos. News coverage exploded across every media outlet. Kang Tae-Jun's wedding interrupted by mystery woman. Assassination attempt rocks Seoul's elite. Love triangle or criminal conspiracy. The headlines ranged from romantic to scandalous, but they all served Tae-Jun's purpose, shifting attention away from the Bacon family's failed coup and toward the more palatable story of star-crossed lovers. Amani signed contracts she barely understood, thick legal documents that Tae-Jun's lawyers assured her were standard. Protection in exchange for 6 months of public companionship. She was assigned security, 2 stone-faced men who followed her everywhere, and moved into a guest suite in Tae-Jun's building. Not with me. He'd clarified when she'd balked. Same building, different floor. You have your privacy. How generous. I'm not a monster, Miss Cole. The jury's still out on that. Their first public appearance was at a charity gala 3 days after the wedding disaster. Amani wore a borrowed dress, deep emerald silk that cost more than her annual salary, and tried not to vomit from nerves. Tae-Jun appeared in her doorway at precisely 7, devastating in a midnight blue suit. Ready? He asked. Not even slightly. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He offered his arm. Stay close to me. Smile when appropriate. Don't answer questions about the wedding. The gala was held at a museum, champagne and classical music flowing through halls lined with priceless art. Every eye tracked their entrance. Amani felt the weight of scrutiny like physical pressure, hundreds of people dissecting her appearance, her dress, her audacity to stand beside Kang Tae-Jun. Breathe, he murmured, his hands settling on the small of her back. You're doing fine. I feel like an exhibit. You are. We both are. This is the price of survival. They moved through the crowd, Tae-Jun introducing her with practiced ease. Business executives, politicians, cultural leaders, everyone seemed to know him, and everyone wanted to understand who she was. Amani kept her answers vague, her smile pleasant, her body language confident. She'd spent years navigating cultural differences. This was just another performance. But the whispers followed them. American. Black. Nobody. Not all the comments were hostile. Some seemed genuinely curious, but the xenophobia lurking beneath Seoul's cosmopolitan surface had teeth. Ignore them, Tae-Jun said, sensing her tension. Easy for you to say. You belong here. I belong nowhere. His voice was flat, final. That's how I've survived. They were approached by an older man, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, who spoke rapid Korean too fast for Amani to follow. Tae-Jun responded smoothly, his tone respectful but firm. The man laughed, clapped him on the shoulder, and walked away. What was that about? Amani asked. Politician. Wanted to know if you were worth the trouble. And what did you tell him? Tae-Jun looked at her then, really looked at her, his dark eyes unreadable. That you were worth dying for. Something fluttered in Amani's chest. You don't mean that. No, he agreed. But he believes I do. That's what matters. The night stretched on. Endless conversations, careful performances, exhausting vigilance. But Amani began to notice things. The way Tae-Jun positioned himself between her and potential threats. How his hand would tighten slightly on her waist when someone said something cutting. The protective instinct that seemed almost unconscious. They were dancing, a slow waltz that Amani faked her way through, when she asked, Why did you really agree to marry Warren? Tae-Jun's jaw tightened. My father built the Black Serpent Union from nothing. When he died, I inherited his empire and his enemies. The Bacon family offered peace through marriage. I accepted because refusing would have meant war. But you knew it was a trap. I suspected. Didn't have proof. His eyes found hers. Then you delivered that envelope. The confirmation of their plan, sent to me by someone who wanted me to know. A traitor in the Bacon ranks, maybe. Or someone playing both sides. Do you know who sent it? Not yet. But I will. The dance ended. Applause rippled through the hall. Tae-Jun led her to a balcony overlooking the city, lights sprawling beneath them like trapped constellations. The night air was cool, welcome after the stifling crowd. Can I ask you something? Amani said. You're going to regardless. Fair point. She leaned against the railing. Do you actually want to run the Black Serpent Union? Or did you just inherit it? Tae-Jun was quiet for a long time. My father was a violent man. Brilliant, strategic, but violent. He built his empire on blood. He stared at the city. I've tried to do it differently. Smarter. Less carnage. But this world doesn't reward mercy. So why not walk away? And do what? Open a coffee shop. His smile was bitter. There's no walking away from this. Only surviving it. That's bleak. That's reality. Amani studied his profile, sharp and beautiful and tired. You didn't answer my question. Do you want this? What I want is irrelevant. He turned to face her. What about you? What do you want, Amani Cole? Right now? To go home. Hug my mother. Eat her sweet potato pie. Forget about criminal syndicates and arranged marriages and assassination attempts. After 6 months, you can. Will you? Will I what? Forget about all of this? Tae-Jun's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering there and dying just as quickly. No, he said quietly. I don't think I will. Before Amani could respond, Jaemin appeared in the doorway. "Boss, we have a problem." They returned inside to find the crowd murmuring, phones out, everyone looking at something on their screens. Tae-Jun pulled out his own phone, his face turning to stone. "What is it?" Amani asked. He showed her a video, professionally edited, showing Warren in a hospital bed, face bruised, speaking tearfully to reporters, claiming Amani had threatened her, claiming Tae-Jun had orchestrated the whole thing, claiming she barely escaped with her life. "She's lying," Amani whispered. "Of course she's lying." Tae-Jun pocketed his phone. "But lies told well become truth. We need to go." The counteroffensive began immediately. Tae-Jun's team worked through the night, pulling security footage, finding witnesses, building their narrative. But Amani could see the stress fracturing his controlled exterior. He barely slept, spent hours on encrypted calls, his movements sharp with exhaustion. 3 weeks into their arrangement, the tension finally cracked. They were attending another event, a corporate dinner at a restaurant that probably cost more to reserve than most people's mortgages. Everything was proceeding smoothly until dessert, when a man at the adjacent table made a comment in English, loud enough to carry. "Guess the serpent has a thing for exotics." The word hit Amani like a slap. She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Tae-Jun's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. A warning or a comfort, she couldn't tell. "Ignore him," he murmured. But the man continued, emboldened by alcohol and perceived anonymity. "I mean, I get it. Import something different, spice things up. But marriage? That's commitment to the fetish." Tae-Jun stood. The restaurant went silent. He walked to the man's table with terrifying calm, leaned down, and spoke in Korean, low, precise, and absolutely venomous. Amani didn't catch every word, but she understood the tone. The man's face drained of color. His companions suddenly found their plates fascinating. Tae-Jun returned to their table, offered his hand to Amani. "We're leaving." In the car, Amani's hands were shaking. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "Why?" "This is fake. 6 months and done, remember? Fake or not, you're under my protection. Nobody disrespects you without consequences." He looked at her then, his eyes dark and intense. Nobody. Something shifted between them in that moment, the performance cracking to reveal something uncomfortably real. Amani felt it in her chest, dangerous and electric. "Thank you," she said softly. "Don't thank me. I'm being selfish." At her confused look, he continued, "If they can insult you publicly, it makes me look weak. I can't afford that. Right? Of course. Strategy. Yes, strategy." But his hand stayed over hers the entire drive home. The attack came 2 weeks later. Another gala. They'd become routine, exhausting fixtures in Amani's new life. This one was bigger, more prestigious. Politicians, foreign diplomats, the kind of crowd where security was tight and violence was theoretically impossible. Theoretically. Amani was in the restroom, her 2 security guards waiting outside, when she heard the commotion. Shouting, glass breaking, then gunfire, sharp cracks that turned her blood to ice. She burst from the restroom to find chaos. Guests running, security returning fire, masked men moving through the crowd with tactical precision. Her guards immediately surrounded her, weapons drawn. "Where's Tae-Jun?" she demanded. "Main hall. We need to evacuate you." "No. Find him. Now." She saw him across the ballroom, surrounded by his own men, exchanging fire with the attackers. Saw Jaemin take a bullet to the shoulder and go down. Saw Tae-Jun move to protect him, exposing himself. Amani didn't think. She ran. Her security shouted her name, running after her. She dodged through panicking crowds, over overturned tables, driven by adrenaline and something she refused to name. Tae-Jun saw her coming, his eyes widening in horror. "Get down," he roared. She dropped as bullets screamed overhead. Then she was crawling, army style, reaching Jaemin. He was bleeding badly, clutching his shoulder, trying to reload his weapon with one hand. "Give me that," Amani snapped, taking the gun. "You can't. My brother's military. He taught me." She checked the weapon with practiced efficiency, years of reluctant lessons flooding back. "Stay down." She rose slightly, aimed, fired 3 precise shots. One attacker went down, then another. Her hands were steady, her breathing controlled, muscle memory taking over. Tae-Jun stared at her like he'd never seen her before. Security reinforcements arrived. The attackers retreated, disappearing as quickly as they'd come. In the aftermath, ambulances, police, shell-shocked guests. Tae-Jun pulled Amani into a side room, his hands gripping her shoulders. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. "I saved your life. Again. You're welcome. You could have been killed. So could you. I'm used to it. You're supposed to be—" He stopped himself, breathing hard. "What? Useless? Decorative? Just some woman you're protecting." "Safe," he said intensely. "You're supposed to be safe. Why do you care?" The question burst out of her, raw and honest. "This is fake, remember? A transaction." Tae-Jun's control finally shattered. He pulled her against him, one hand fisting in her hair, and kissed her. Not like at the wedding, not performative or strategic. This was desperate, hungry, months of tension igniting. Amani kissed him back, her hands clutching his jacket, pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and danger, and something she absolutely could not afford to want. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Tae-Jun pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered. "The worst," she agreed. 6 months. That was the deal. "Yes. We should stick to it." "Absolutely." Neither of them moved away. "Amani," he said, his voice rough. "I need to tell you something." Before he could continue, Jaemin appeared in the doorway, arm bandaged, face grim. "Boss, we found out who sent the first package. The one Ms. Cole delivered." Tae-Jun straightened immediately. "Who? You need to see this." They followed Jaemin to a secure room where laptops displayed surveillance footage. Amani's stomach dropped when she saw the face on screen. "That's your source," Jaemin said. "The one who warned you about Warren's plan." The man in the footage was young, dark-skinned, with familiar eyes and a smile Amani would know anywhere. "That's my brother," she whispered. "That's Isaiah." Tae-Jun turned to her slowly. "Explain." "I can't. I didn't know." Her mind raced. "He's in the military. International Task Force. Anti-trafficking unit. What would he be doing?" "Anti-trafficking," Tae-Jun repeated, his voice turning cold. "Which means anti-organized crime. Which means hunting people like me." No, he wouldn't." "Did you know?" He grabbed her arms. "Did you know your brother was investigating me?" "I swear I didn't. I haven't talked to him in months. He doesn't even know I'm in Korea." But Tae-Jun's face had closed off, the vulnerability from moments ago replaced by cold calculation. This was a setup. All of it. You, the package, the wedding. Your brother used you as bait. That's not true. Then why is he in my city, investigating my organization, and somehow connected to the package that started all of this? Amani couldn't answer, because she didn't know, and that terrified her. They took her to a safe house, concrete walls, no windows, the kind of place where people disappeared. Amani sat in a metal chair, her security detail now her captors, while Tae-Jun paced like a caged predator. "Call him," he ordered, throwing a phone on the table. "Your brother. Call him now. And say what? Find out what he knows. What you know." His eyes were hard, empty of the warmth she'd glimpsed at the gala. "Find out if I'm about to be arrested or assassinated." Amani's hands shook as she picked up the phone. She dialed Isaiah's number from memory, each ring stretching into eternity. He answered on the fourth. "Mani? Jesus, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for weeks." His voice, so familiar, so safe, nearly broke her. "I've been busy." "Busy? I've seen the news. You're with Kang Tae-Jun? Are you insane? Do you know who that man is?" "Do you?" she shot back. "Since apparently you've been investigating him." Silence. "Then, how did you?" "I saw the footage, Isaiah. You sent that package. The one I delivered. You used me." "I didn't use you. I didn't know they'd hire you as the courier. That was," he swore. "That was bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time." "Explain." "All of it. Now." Isaiah's exhale was heavy with frustration. "I'm part of a task force targeting human trafficking networks in Southeast Asia. The Black Serpent Union isn't our primary target, but they've been laundering money for groups that are. When we learned about the arranged marriage with the Bacon family, who are definitely trafficking, we saw an opportunity. An opportunity to do what? To stop a merger that would have created the largest criminal network in Asia. Tae-Jun isn't innocent, Mani, but he's not trafficking people. The Bacon family is. If that marriage had gone through. So you tried to get him killed? No. We tried to warn him. Get him to cooperate. The package contained evidence of Warren's real plans, not just to kill him, but to use his organization's infrastructure for trafficking. We thought if he knew the truth, he might work with us. Amani's head spun. You could have just called him. Criminals don't take calls from international task forces. We needed a subtle approach. His voice softened. I never meant for you to get involved. When I saw you in that surveillance footage at his wedding, kissing him, Amani, I nearly had a heart attack. I saved his life. I know. And now you're in deeper than anyone should be. He paused. Is he listening to this? Amani looked at Tae-Jun, who stood motionless, his face unreadable. Yes. Good. Kang Tae-Jun, I know you can hear me. I'm not your enemy. The BWAM family is. They're using legitimate business fronts to move women and children across borders. If you cooperate with us, we can take them down together. You get immunity, a chance to walk away clean. Tae-Jun stepped forward, took the phone from Amani's hand. You want me to betray my world, dismantle my father's legacy, and trust the same governments that have been trying to arrest me for a decade? I want you to stop a trafficking network that destroys thousands of lives every year. Yeah, I do. And if I refuse, then we'll take down the BWAM family ourselves. But the process will be messy. Lots of collateral damage. Your organization included. Isaiah's voice hardened. Or you can be part of the solution. Your choice. Tae-Jun ended the call, dropping the phone on the table. He stared at Amani for a long moment, then walked out without a word. Jamin appeared in the doorway. He needs time. You should rest. I'm not tired. That wasn't a suggestion. They moved her to a bedroom, still sparse, still locked, but with an actual bed. Amani sat on the edge, her mind churning. Everything had been a lie. Not Tae-Jun's feelings. Those might have been real. She still didn't know. But the foundation of how they'd met. Her brother had orchestrated the entire thing, turned her into an unwitting operative. And Tae-Jun had every right to hate her for it. Hours passed. Maybe days. Without windows, time lost meaning. Food appeared at intervals. Jamin checking on her with professional courtesy, but no warmth. She'd become a liability. A complication in a world that eliminated complications. Then Tae-Jun returned. He looked exhausted, his usual perfect composure cracked at the edges. He sat in the chair across from her bed, elbows on his knees, and for a long moment, said nothing. I've been thinking, he finally said, about what your brother offered. And the BWAM family needs to be stopped. I've known about the trafficking for months, suspected longer. My father kept them as allies because they were useful, but I'm not my father. He looked up, meeting her eyes. I've wanted out of this life since the day I inherited it. Maybe this is how. You'd really cooperate? If it means destroying Warren and her family? Absolutely. His smile was cold. They tried to kill me at my own wedding. I don't forgive that. What about me? The question came out smaller than she intended. Do you forgive me? Tae-Jun stood, crossed to where she sat, and crouched so they were eye level. You didn't know? I believe that. You're a terrible liar, Amani. I would have seen deception. Then why lock me up? Because I needed to be sure. And because... He hesitated, then continued. Because I was angry. Not at you, at the situation. At how close I came to actually feeling something real in this nightmare of a life. Only to discover it started with manipulation. For what it's worth, Amani said quietly, what I feel isn't manipulation. That part's real. I know. He touched her face, gentle despite the calluses on his palm. That's what terrifies me. The operation took 3 weeks to plan. Amani became the bridge between Tae-Jun's organization and Isaiah's task force, translating more than just language, translating trust, strategy, cultural context that both sides missed. It was dangerous, delicate work, every meeting fraught with the possibility of betrayal. But slowly, impossibly, it came together. The trap was set for a charity auction hosted by the BWAM family, exclusive, high security, attended by their entire leadership. Tae-Jun would attend as a gesture of reconciliation, supposedly ready to negotiate peace after the wedding disaster. Amani would go with him, wired, recording everything. The night before, in Tae-Jun's penthouse, Amani couldn't sleep. She found him on the balcony, city lights sprawling below, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Having second thoughts? She asked, joining him. Constantly. He glanced at her. You? I'm terrified. This could go wrong in 1,000 different ways. Yes. Very reassuring. He smiled slightly. I've never been good at comfort. You've been better than you think. Amani took his hand. After tomorrow, if this works, what will you do? I don't know. I've never thought about a life that wasn't this. He squeezed her fingers. What about you? Go home, eventually. See my family. Figure out who I am when I'm not pretending to be a crime lord's fiancée. You were never pretending. Not really. Neither were you. They stood in comfortable silence, the weight of tomorrow pressing down. Then Tae-Jun turned to her, his expression vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. If this goes badly, he said, if something happens to me, don't. Listen, if something happens, Jaemin has instructions. You'll be protected, compensated, everything we agreed to. More, actually. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Amani looked at him. This beautiful, damaged man who'd been born into violence and spent his life trying to be better than his inheritance. I want you to survive tomorrow. I want you to have a chance at the life you've never let yourself imagine. And if I survive, if we both survive, then we figure it out. Together, maybe. If you want. Tae-Jun pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I want. He whispered into her hair. God help me, I want. The auction was everything they'd anticipated. Opulent, crowded, dripping with wealth stolen from suffering. Warren greeted them with venomous courtesy, her face still bearing faint scars from the attack she'd fabricated. Her family surrounded them, smiling predators in expensive clothes. The wire was active. Isaiah's team was positioned outside. Everything was in place. Then Warren leaned close to Amani during dinner and whispered, I know what you're doing. Amani's blood froze. Did you really think we wouldn't check for wires? For surveillance. Warren's smile was poisonous. We've been 3 steps ahead this entire time. Your brother's team is walking into a trap. And you. She gestured subtly, and Amani felt the press of a gun against her back, hidden by the server behind her. You're coming with us. Everything happened at once. Security moved. Tae-Jun lunged for Amani. Gunfire erupted, not from outside, but from inside. Warren's men targeting Tae-Jun's guards. Amani felt hands grabbing her, dragging her toward a service exit. Then Tae-Jun was there, appearing like a demon from hell, his fist connecting with her captor's jaw. They fought, brutal, desperate, while chaos consumed the auction hall. Amani saw Isaiah's team breaching the building, saw the task force flooding in, saw everything their careful plan crumbling into violence. A gunshot. Tae-Jun staggered, blood blooming across his shoulder. He fell, and Amani screamed his name, dropping beside him. Get out of here, he gasped. Amani, run. Not without you. She pulled him up, his weight heavy against her, and ran. They made it to a storage room, Amani barricading the door while Tae-Jun collapsed against the wall, clutching his wound. Blood seeped between his fingers. Let me see, she demanded, pulling his hand away. The bullet had gone through, good and bad. Less internal damage, but bleeding profusely. You need to leave me, Tae-Jun said. Give yourself up to your brother's team. You'll be safe. Shut up. Amani ripped fabric from her dress, pressing it against the wound. You don't get to die? Not after everything. Amani. No. You promised me we'd figure this out together. You don't break promises to me, Kang Tae-Jun. He laughed, the sound wet and pained. You're terrifying, you know that? Good. Be terrified. Stay alive. The door shuddered under impact, someone trying to break through. Amani grabbed Tae-Jun's gun from his holster, checked the magazine, and aimed at the entrance. The door burst open. Isaiah came through, weapon raised, task force behind him. He saw Amani, saw Tae-Jun bleeding, and his face went through 1,000 emotions. Medic, he shouted. Now. Then, to Amani. You okay? He needs help. I know. We got them. Warren, her family, the whole network. It's over. It wasn't over, not really. The aftermath took months, testimonies, legal proceedings, media circuses. Tae-Jun cooperated fully, dismantling the Black Serpent Union from within, providing evidence that brought down trafficking networks across 3 countries. In exchange, immunity, protection, a chance to disappear. But he didn't disappear. 6 months after the auction, Amani stood in the doorway of a small cultural center in Hanul City's University District. The space was hers, funded partially by compensation from her fake engagement, partially by legitimate consulting work she'd built up. It offered translation services, cultural education programs, community support for immigrants and expats. It was everything she'd wanted, built from ashes. The door chimed. Amani looked up from paperwork to see Tae-Jun, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, looking more at peace than she'd ever seen him. "You came," she said, smiling. "I was invited." He approached slowly, like he was afraid of spooking her. "The center looks incredible." "Thanks. We open officially next week." She gestured around. "It's not quite what either of us expected, huh?" "Nothing about us has been expected." He pulled a small box from his pocket, set it on her desk. "I wanted to give you something. Not a proposal. We've had enough fake engagements for one lifetime. Just a promise." Amani opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring, elegant and understated. "A promise of what?" she asked. "That I'm done running. Done pretending. If you'll have me, really have me, not as a transaction or a protection deal, but as myself, whoever that turns out to be, then I'm yours." Amani looked at this man who'd been a stranger, a captor, a partner, a love she'd never planned for. "I'm flying home next week. To see my mom, my family. They want to meet you." "Is that terrifying?" "Absolutely." "Good." She stood, moved into his space, took his face in her hands. "You should be terrified. My mother is going to interrogate you for hours. My brother already doesn't trust you. And I'm going to make you eat soul food until you can't move." Tae-Jun smiled, genuine, warm, free. "I can't wait." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of possibility. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, two people who'd saved each other built something new from the ruins of who they'd been. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Real life never was. But it was real, and it was theirs, and that was enough. To enjoy more stories, kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more intense stories like this.